And as Saba was saying, we will touch more on some of those training, education, and bringing in young people issues in other presentations. We mentioned right at the outset that this is about bringing patients and public into the whole process of setting up clinical trials. I happen to have a role in the NHS in the UK, working in public engagement for patients, and it's a very key issue. So how's it achieved in the C4C project? Well, to tell us more, please welcome Begonya Nafria, who is Coordinator of Patient Engagement and Research at the San Joan de Dios Children's Hospital in Spain. Begonya, over to you.
Good afternoon to everybody. Thank you so much for being here. For me, it's a big pleasure and a big responsibility to introduce the topic about patient and public involvement within C4C, because I think that it's one of the most probably assets of these networks that we know that other similar networks at country level or international level, they don't have. But first of all, thank you so much also for trusting San Joan de Dios Research Foundation to coordinate all this stuff within C4C. Thank you so much for the 8 partners, the 8 organizations that are working with us in the PPI, in the patient and public involvement staff within C4C. And of course, thank you so much also to all the patients, parents, and caregivers that have been involved and hopefully will be involved not only in C4C, also in the future. But first of all, please, I want to keep your attention during my presentation. I want that you see my slides and you listen me, probably not only from the stakeholder that you represent. Probably you are working in industry, in academia. I want that you listen me from the perspective of someone that is a parent or it's a relative of a children with a disease, because this is what we want to achieve when we involve children and young people in our projects. We have talked about many of the challenges that still we have, and this is basically the reason to have at that moment these pan-European pediatric clinical trials working, but still the list, as you can see in the slide, it's long. And this is the aim, to involve children, young people and parents, help the experts, the real experts in science, but not the real experts sometimes in the disease, to face these challenges. I'm not going to go into detail, but still we have drugs that we don't have the right formulation. We need specific PROs for some of these rare pediatric conditions that we have. We talk a lot about DCTs, but still sometimes in some studies are not probably the best approach. And also, in general, what we need is more pediatric research, because we have plenty of conditions that we don't have even pediatric clinical trials. And also part of the stuff that we do in patient and public involvement is to recognize the need to have more pediatric research. But said this, what is important for us, and it's the method that we use when we work with young people and parents, is mention that for us, every project is absolutely different and unique, from different perspectives, from the disease, from the age of the patients, from the design of this study. And this is the method that we follow, that we refer with the name bespoke plan, and I'm going to go into detail afterwards. But give me the chance to introduce some stories, because I have mentioned that we have challenges, but also we have stories of trials that probably from the very beginning that it's when it's more meaningful to involve the patients, we listen them, probably we face these challenges, we solve them, the aim of this study to be performed in the right way and in the right time probably can be managed and solved. And you have here for photos. The first one is about a study in which children, they have mobility issues. And we need to consider this from the very beginning, long trials. Sometimes these children, they start so young and they finish the studies being teenagers or young adults. And probably the design of this trial is a big challenge for a kid that it's not autonomous. And we need to take easy things sometimes on place for solve these challenges. The use of wearables. Still, we see protocols in which probably we are thinking to use a wearable that it's really incompatible with the condition. Probably it's the best device to collect the data, but probably these kids, because probably they have a problem in the skin, they cannot use these devices. Simple things, but still we see in the real world. The use of digital solutions. To use these digital solutions, you need to have the right access to internet, the right, let's say, hand agility to answer these questionnaires, etc. Still, this happens. And if you know what entails this disease, probably you solve. And another example, but easy to understand. Sometimes, how we package the drug, the container, probably it's not the best format for kids that probably also they have problems to deal with the process to open this container and to take the drug. Simple things, and this is what we can solve with the involvement of children and young people. They are not going to change the scientific design of the protocol, but if we adjust this, we will have probably the right candidates for our project, and this trial can move forward. Because something that you probably are aware, and I'm sure that you know better than me, children are not small adults, and when one size doesn't fit all. And this is the aim of this bespoken plan, this methodology that we use, and to have on the table as a partners of these projects from the minute number zero, the patients and the parents helping the research teams. We have different methods to involve young people in these projects. We have young persons advisory groups, these youth councils that at that moment are working in several children's hospitals across Europe. With these groups, what we do, beyond, of course, to train them and educate them in science, it's to get their perspective in common things about science. Probably we need to explain better the consent process. We need to explain better what is a clinical trial. These general things can be covered and managed with the advice of these young people. But in other projects, what we need is to have these very specific disease groups, because they have the expertise, the experience living 24 hours, 7 days per week with a condition. And I think that this is the value and the uniqueness that we have with the patient and public involvement within C4C. We need to listen them, because if we listen them in the right moment, everything will be tailored and adjusted to their needs and their preferences. And they have rights. And one of the rights that they have is to be listened in any decision that can matter the health of children. And this is also something that we need to recognize any time that we do activities with patients in regards to clinical trials, because also be part of a clinical trial or ask for their opinion in an advisory activity, it's a matter to recognize the rights of children. And of course, we will involve them any time that we can involve them, because they have the right maturity level and the right age. But if not, always we will have the parents or the caregivers. Said this, we can perform different types of services, and this bespoken plan answers, according to the project, the right questions to specific projects. And here, the four, let's say, big boxes or pillars in which we can provide services. Some of these services are very specific for the project. We can also provide training if it's needed, not only for the families, of course, also for professionals working in academia and in pharma. We can deliver and execute this service. It's not only the consultant service to conceptualize these activities. And of course, something that is very important and relevant is do the analysis about the impact of our activities, because everything has an impact in the clinical trial execution. And there is a very potential tool that we can still use to convince about involved children and young people. I always put the same example. We need to go to the ethics committee because it provides, the assessment of the ethical perspective of our research project, but still it's not mandatory to listen to patients. But if we do something similar, it could be, probably this study really patient-centric and not only, a fancy word that sometimes it's used. This is a snapshot about the drug development process, highlighting some examples about activities, moments, and tasks that we can do with patients and families. Of course, as sooner the better, because some decisions about the design of these studies are taken in this early stage, but we never need to forget that when this study is finished, we have the commitment to communicate the results of this project. And still we see like summaries about pediatric trials that are not designed for the patients that participated in these trials. And they need to be the ones to receive and understand this information. This is the last part of the process, but between the beginning and the end, there are plenty of opportunities, depending on the project, to involve the patients and the families. And how we do these services. We do these services also in a central model within EYPACnet. EYPACnet is the European Young Persons Advisory Group network that we set up in 2017. Still we are, let's say, so young, but at that moment very strong, because we have experts and liaisons with the different national hubs in C4C that allow us to get also the country and the diversity perspective from children and families living across Europe. And this is so important because in this spoken plan model, for us it's important to try to replicate the same plan about to involve some specific countries in the clinical trial study also for the patient and public involvement activities. This is the process that we follow to deliver the services. You need to contact as well the C4C single point of contact, and at that moment starts the work of our network to have this scoping interview, to define this bespoken plan, and also to execute everything with this opportunity, as I mentioned, to listen patients and families from different countries, and also for these general activities, if needed, to involve the Young Persons Advisory Group. But the most important part, it's at the end. At the end, you will receive a report collecting all the feedback, all the inputs, all the insights of these young patients and parents, with an analysis about how important it's to implement these ideas coming from the patients in the projects. And something that also is for us important is the return about what was improved, adjusted, or modified in this study to the participants, because they deserve also to listen that what they have done, it's meaningful and it's relevant. And they are part also of science. We cannot do science with the patients, but also our model is to science, also listening the patients and the families in the design and the execution of this science. I want also to comment that involving patients, it's not a mandatory process, as I said, but at the European level, there are two important comments in the European regulation about the role of patients. One is that it's important to have in the assessment process of a clinical trial the perspective of a patient representative, but also something that it's important that you need to be aware is that when you do the clinical trial submission to the agency, if you have involved the patients in the clinical trial design, this part of the work is going to be assessed, and you need to include also this report, the report that in the case of C4C and our network we can deliver to you, because it's the evidence about how this protocol finally has been shaped according to the needs and the preferences of the patients. And at the end, involving patients and families in the design and in the execution of clinical trials, it's a matter to do better science, and the impact, as you can see here, it's going to benefit the patients, the ones that will participate in the trial, of course, the clinical trial per se, the activity of the clinical trial sites, because I think that also they play a very important role, and this is the reason because in our model we are not experts coming from different environments or representing different stakeholders. We are professionals working in pediatric and children's hospital, and I think that this expertise also is an asset for these activities. And of course, in general, the impact is for the society, because if we can have medicines for children delivered, according to the plan and good for the patients, at the end, the future society will have adults, that probably can have a better quality of life if, unfortunately, we cannot cure this disease. And talking about dreams, I think that we are in a very sweet moment in which, okay, we have dreamed, we have achieved many, many things, and I'm so happy to be here and to explain the process that we follow at the very beginning in C4C, and at that moment that we are, I think, quite strong and with this European perspective, but now it's the moment to go further, and hopefully I can see in my life, I'm still young and I expect to live a lot of years, but hopefully I will see at some point that this patient and public involvement is a mandatory process, and these trials will be designed from the very beginning, listening the young people and the parents. And that's it from my side. Thank you so much.